Hey guys, Ryan Smith with the Ryan Smith Home Selling Team here to discuss the basics of negotiating a real estate deal in today's market. What does that look like? How to handle counteroffers? Well, we'll talk about that next. Hey guys, well, once again in our never-ending journey to bring you some great content to discuss today's real estate market, one of the things we thought we'd discuss today was just the basics of negotiating, and not so much just reading your offer, but how to handle an offer that's presented, and then how to handle a counteroffer, right? So, very rarely does it ever show up does the time occur where a buyer just shows up and says, Mr. Seller, I will pay you every penny that you wanted. And certainly we have very specific strategies that are unique to our team in how to handle negotiating and in how to ensure that our sellers win in that negotiating process. First off, a lot of people almost get offended. It's like, well, why was I countered? So if I made this offer and I was hoping to get this, or, why would the seller counter me back? Or let's, vice versa, the seller makes a counteroffer to a buyer. Well, why are they countering me? Well, for sake of breaking down something that seems very obvious, but it's easy to forget sometimes, is that, both parties are coming from opposing viewpoints. You have a seller that wants to sell it for as much money as possible, put as much money in their pocket as they possibly can. And you have a buyer that's really after the opposite thing, right? So they're trying to get it for as cheaply as they can and save as much money as possible. So let's say you've received that offer. What are the things to consider? How do you actually handle that? Well, first off, and this is paramount, right? You need to understand the market, right? Let me repeat that again, because that is like the biggest thing I can say for folks when they have difficulty with negotiating. A lot of times it starts with truly understanding the market. Now, of course, that's going to tap into one of the other things we're going to discuss in a minute, which is hiring an agent who knows what they're doing, right? Who's experienced, who understands the market as well. So, for example, if someone brings in a very low offer in a price point, like for example, between $100,000 and $150,000 right now, when there's less than 1 month of inventory that's on the market, how much am I going to have to negotiate with that person in order to sell that property? Probably not very much. And if the buyer who is making an offer on that property that's priced between $100,000 and $150,000 wants me to give him a bunch in concessions and wants me to negotiate off a whole lot, as long as the house is in good condition and is priced very reasonably for where things are selling in the market today, I probably am not going to have to negotiate with them very much. I'm not going to have to give a lot. Why? Because I understand the market. I know that if this particular buyer is asking for too much, I have a very good chance of being able to sell it to another buyer down the road who will ask for less, right? And so as I'm advising my seller in this circumstance, or it could be as you're advising a buyer, depending on which side of this you're on, but as you're advising your client in this circumstance, it begins with first understanding the market, knowing, what is the big picture here? And that's actually the second part of this is we need to make sure that we understand the big picture. That does include, what is the market today, but it could also include the big picture for this house. So let's say, for example, a buyer is making an offer that's lower. However, as a seller, I know that I'm probably going to have to replace the roof, and I might have a whole bunch of other repairs that are necessary that I'm clearly not going to do. Well, you might be more willing to concede in this circumstance, knowing that if you don't concede in this area, or over some certain aspects of this, there are things later that could come back and cost you more money down the road. So, keeping a big picture, or for example, let's say that you receive an offer that's slightly less than where you want it to be, but if we don't take this offer and we don't have another offer come in very soon, chances are high we're going to end up even worse off later on down the road. So knowing some of these things and keeping the big picture in mind is very important as you're going through that process, right? And understanding the market and keeping the big picture in mind, also important, of course, from the buyer's perspective. If they understand the market, they might know, hey, I can't ask for as much because it's a really hot market right now. Or, I don't need to pursue this house quite as strongly because there's another one that's right next door or right down the street or in a different neighborhood that I like equally as well. So, some of these things factor into that. Of course, each client is going to have their own set of unique circumstances. So there could be a buyer who's being forced to move out of his apartment. He's going to be handling negotiations, in a very different way as someone who has all the time in the world to move. Same thing for a seller. If he's PCSing from Fort Hood to, or Fort Wainwright, Alaska, he's going to handle that a lot differently than someone who just is trying it out, testing their house out on the market to see if they find an offer that they might like. The final point I would say is, of course, it really all comes down to hiring an expert. Hire somebody who truly understands the market and who has your best interest at heart. I can promise you, in working with our team every single time that we step up to bat to negotiate for you, whether you're buying or selling, it is truly our heart's desire to do an outstanding job for you, keeping that big picture in mind, but giving you the advice and the expertise that's needed to help you truly win. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you watching this video and listening to me ramble about real estate, but look forward to catching you on the next one. If you have some topics you'd like to hear, reach out and let us know. We'd love to include those in this video blog as well. So have a great day.